Hi, this is David Zahn of Zahn Consulting, and I'd like to take just a fast moment of your time to talk about an issue our industry is currently confronting. And that issue is surrounding ethics. Now, all of us have heard our moms tell us, if you have nothing nice to say, say nothing at all. And further, we've been told, nobody likes a tattletale. But the reality is, in sales situations, it is enticing and not at all uncommon for one vendor or supplier to take liberties in discussing their competition. After all, it's very often a zero-sum game. One company wins, one company loses, and it is enticing to try to knock your competition down just a little bit. So you might share some anecdote or stretch the truth that doesn't portray your competition in a nice light. And all of that goes on, and certainly it is incumbent upon you as the buyer of services to be able to weed out what is marketing talk, what is salesmanship perhaps gone awry, and what is reality. When is that supplier or vendor trying to really be an advocate for you and protect you from perhaps making a poor decision? In terms of marketing gamesmanship or salesmanship, there are two things I'd like to share with you. We've all heard of that proverbial town that had two barbers competing for all the haircuts available within town. One barber attempts to compete on price, puts up a sign in their shop window saying $5 haircuts. And as might be expected, many of the men in town swarm to that barber. Not to be outdone, the other barber in town puts up a sign that simply reads, "We fix $5 haircuts." And as you might expect, the business left the $5 haircut barber and went to the barber that now had some perceived quality to him. Similar story. This one was shared by Mike Bosworth, a preeminent sales trainer who has gone through solution selling, customer-centric selling, and is now working on a project that attempts to bring more story form into the sales environment. What Mike shared in a training I attended was one of his clients was competing for business against another firm that had Fran Tarkenton, the Minnesota Vikings and New York Giants quarterback, as part of their executive team. Knowing that there was a chance that they may lose the business, his client shared with the prospect that in spite of the attempts that Fran Tarkenton may use in signing a Super Bowl football, bringing the prospect to a game and having them sit up in the owner's box, and providing them with all these other non-essential but ego-gratifying kinds of gifts, that the client didn't want the prospect to necessarily be swayed and wanted to make sure that the decision was based on what was best for the prospect's business. Now, the twist here is that the Fran Tarkenton company never intended to use Fran Tarkenton's football connections to that level. There was never going to be a signed football. There was never going to be tickets to the game, never mind the owner's box. And so what happened in the prospect's mind when that was not offered is that they became offended, as if they weren't worthy of the best efforts of the Fran Tarkenton company. And they decided to go with the client that Mike Bosworth was working with in this training endeavor. Now, we can all accuse that client of being unethical, of not necessarily competing fairly, but the reality is those kinds of things happen. So it really is incumbent upon the prospect, the buyer, to do their due diligence, to understand what is valuable, what is truthful, and what is appropriate on which to base decisions. Because if you allow the salesperson or salespersons from competing companies to try to dictate the terms on which the business should be decided, you will likely find that you are being driven to a decision that benefits them, but not necessarily you. I have a lot more to say about this topic, and I look forward to talking to you about it. Please give me a call.